Good. Here we go. We learned a sicha in Chelik Gimel. And the sicha is talking about Moshe. Moses' question to God in the end of last week's Torah portion. And God's reply to Moshe. What was Moshe's question to God? God, why are you making the Jewish people suffer? Why did you send me? And God replies back to him, I really regret that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are not here. To them, I revealed myself in a lower aspect, the name El Shaddai, Kel Shaddai. To you, I'm revealing a higher aspect of myself, the essence of God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they didn't ask any questions. They had all sorts of difficulties. I promised them all sorts of things, and I did not provide. I did not fulfill my promises. I promised them that their seed, or their children, are going to be like the seed, like the stars of the heavens and the sand on the sea. And I promised them the land of Israel, and I didn't give them either one. And they didn't ask any questions. Now, finally, I'm going to fulfill the promise. What I promised to them, I'm going to give it to you. They're not even going to see the results, right? And they're no. I mean, of course, the Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov are still alive in some sort of amazingly real sense. But nevertheless, the fact is, God promised them in their lifetime, and they didn't see anything, and they didn't complain. And Moshe, you're complaining. Okay, so the Rebbe says, let's understand really what is really going on over here. You know, what is really happening. On one hand, why did Moshe ask? He was supposed to have a tremendous faith in God. On the other hand, why did God really do such terrible things to the Jews? I mean, you know, the Jews didn't do any sins. They were all born in Egypt. They were born in Egypt, so you can't really expect that much from them. And not only that, you know, God is infinitely good. And Moshe's thing is the taking them out of Egypt was really good. So how is this bad part of it? But nevertheless, Moshe shouldn't have had any questions. He should have understood that this is really for the good, and it is good. So let's see this. So the Rebbe explained that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they were the fathers of the Jews because they provided emotional qualities to the Jewish people, relating to God. That's the whole thing of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. They related to God, and they related to God, and they opened up the channel to certain emotions for God. Avram opened up the channel for loving God. Loving God. He was the first person that really loved God with all of his being. He loved God. He wasn't thinking about himself at all. Didn't care about going to heaven, didn't care about anything. Only cared about one thing, doing what God wants. He was willing to even kill his own son, would wreck the whole future of Judaism, destroy everything that he had worked for his whole life, his history, all of his accomplishments. He would have wiped them all out in 1 second if he would have sacrificed Yitzchak. Right? Everybody would say, yeah, he's crazy, he's out of his mind. There wouldn't have been any more Judaism. Everything that he had done. Abraham was already 137 years old, but from love of God, he did it. It says that also he showed his fear of God. It says, okay, this is almost incomprehensible, but nevertheless, that opened up the channel for the Jewish people, the father Jewish people, loving God. Yitzchak opened up the channel of fearing God, making changes in the world, being powerful, right? And Yaakov, he opened up the channel for balance, beauty. Says these are the three aspects. Okay, Lloyd them. So according to this, the Avos, the Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, their main thing is emotions. Their main thing are the emotions. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he was what's called Chachma. Chachma is translated loosely as wisdom, awareness of God. above understanding. What's meant for state, which you understand the reason why. Now we can understand why Moshe was given hecher, he was a higher level than Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were the emotions, and intellect is higher than emotions. Hat ya gefragt, why Moshe asked, why are you torturing the Jewish people? And Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they didn't ask any questions. Nicht gefragt, they didn't ask. In Medrega is Taka Moshe Rabbeinu given hecher. In his level, Moshe Rabbeinu, he was higher than Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But to leave them gufa, but because of this itself, because he was higher, and he had this more awareness of God and less emotion, as was Zayin Iker, his main thing is Chachma V'Seichel. His main thing of Moshe Rabbeinu was intellect. The Torah. What's the Torah? The Torah is intellect, very amazing, but also very deep and complicated with understanding. Therefore, Moshe asked the question, well, the Teva, because the nature of intellect is zu willen verstehen. He wants to understand everything. That's what I said. Judaism is based on questions. It's not based on the answers, but it's based on asking questions. People are supposed to be inquisitive. People are supposed to ask. Not all questions have answers. Right? We can't understand what God is and how God does things, but we're supposed to ask. Is b'shas is kumtak azach, when a person comes to something, watch. Hat oif dem nit kein tam. He has no reason or understanding. Stertim, this prevents him from gehen weiter in avoda. A person that has a question, it stops him from serving God properly. Why? Because he thinks to himself, listen, maybe I'm not doing something right. If I don't understand this, then maybe I'll make a mistake. I don't want to do that. Was is given shalos. That was the question of Moshe. Had gewollt an answer. He wanted an answer of sein shalom, his question, so that he can go further and serve God further. They're avoided from Chachma the Kedusha. In other words, if Moshe had a question, God, why are you making these people suffer? So maybe the answer is, well, the reason I'm doing it is because Moshe, you're not acting properly, right? You have to circulate around the people more. You have to give more charity. You have to do something. Maybe I'm the problem. But that there's a problem, that's no doubt about it. By Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they weren't interested in that. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, God told them what to do. They did it. Either were problems on the way, they ignored them. They ignored the problems. God told me what to do. That's what I'm going to do. In a way, that's very good. Where if there wasn't been that way, there wouldn't have been the Akedah. The whole essence of Judaism is to follow God unquestionably. But on the other hand, another essence of God is that if you're going to follow God unquestionably, so one of the things that God wants you to do is ask questions. That's one of the things he wants you to do. And that's what Moshe did. But Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they served more from emotions. And so their main emphasis was not on the questions. They ignored them. Moshe Rabbeinu, his main thing was intellect, understanding. He wanted everything to be explained to the ultimate level. And what couldn't be explained, okay, so accept that thing can't be explained, but at least I did to the ultimate level. Therefore, God answered, Vayadaber Elokim Moshe Vayomer Elavani Hashem. God said, I am God, but my name, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, this essence name, I didn't make known to the Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Far Matan Torah, before the Torah was given, is given the Gila, the revelation of the name Elokim, and not the revelation of the name Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. Ushmi Avaya, my name, Lo Nodati Lem, I didn't make known to them. But now by Matan Torah, now Moshe, you're preparing the world for the giving of the Torah, as was hat zich eingeheuben, which began as soon as God said, I'm taking the Jews out of Egypt, is given the Gil. Now there's a revelation of Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, Ani Avaya. What's the difference between the name Yud Elokim and the name of, I mean, how many gods are there? There's only one God. What difference does it make what name it is? It says, okay, I'll explain to you. Listen. Shem Elokim, the name Elokim, based off, or this is a limited light of God, which is in the worlds. Elokim is the nature, the same numerical value of nature. Now, nature is pretty amazing. If you consider that God is creating all of the world, that's a very mind-blowing idea. And God is creating everything constantly, every leaf, every blade of grass, every bug, every atom, every microbe, right? God is creating everything all the time, right? Every digestive system of every amoeba or every whatever is bacteria. God is creating all these things every single instant, all the world. That's only the physical. What about all the angels? God's creating them. So there's at least number of bugs and amoebas and things. There's a number. Angels, it says there's no number, unlimited. And God is creating all this all the time. That's amazing. With all that, that's the name Elokim. And mitzad Shem Elokim, because of the name Elokim, is Yeder Zach, everything is limited. In Ir Inyan, in its topic, was tiled Ir up, which divides it from its Sveiter Zach, from other things. Was therefore, which therefore is Elokim, the name of God, Elokim, is plural. Like it says, Elokim Kadoshim. Like it says, God is a holy God, but it doesn't say God, it says gods. Elokim. How can it be that God is a plural name? What does this mean? Excuse me one second. What does it mean that God is a plural name? God's ability to create a diverse world. That's the name Elokim. Because of the name Elokim is Faran, there is this whole topic of Rabim, of plural, multitude. So leaves are Farshidinkeit because of their distinctions. Everything is different from everything else. But the name Yud Kei Vav Kei Veistov, this shows higher than any limitation, higher than any division. Like it says, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei contains all the letters of past, present, and future at once. Past, present, and future at once. How can there be past, present, and future at once? What's past is already past. What's future is not yet. There's no bigger difference than that. Than what's gone is gone, and what's going to be is not here yet. By God, there's no difference. How can this be? We can't understand it. Well, this is higher than nature, higher than intellect. Was this is this is a light of God, which is higher from the worlds. And this light, as this Galagavan was revealed at Mount Sinai. Was the river, which therefore is by Matan Torah. It says by Matan Torah was a Rapkinum, was removed the Gezerah, the decree, which had Fanandertite, which divided the upper worlds from the lower worlds. Was in Kochos and Nefesh, this is what's called intellect and emotion. In other words, before giving of the Torah, God's intellect, what God wanted, his plan for the world was not revealed, only to certain people, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. At Mount Sinai, God revealed his whole plan, the whole wisdom and understanding revealed. Thus, at the this God, that's what God said to Moshe Rabbeinu. As Moshe Rabbeinu, you got a good question. The Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, their thing was not understanding. Your thing is understanding, and it's you ask a good question. But now, then Mehad Bader Geula, now this is the preparation for the redemption. God's taking the Jews out of Egypt, and He's going to take them out of the exile we're in now. What Zay is Bezachus Unsulib Mantor. What's the whole exile in Egypt was in order that the Jews would go to Mount Sinai. Is a filu there was iker there. Was ikar inyana is chachma seichel. Even a person who, those people who are concerned with intellect, understanding, they should darv by im zayin the hiskolus from teva amidos erhad baim nit fregen kein shilas. That's what God is saying. True, now your intellect You, Moshe, your intellect, and you should ask questions. But now we're preparing for Mount Sinai. And on Mount Sinai, I'm going to reveal his higher name, and that's going to take away all of your questions. You're going to realize that there are some things that simply cannot be understood. Good, you're asking questions, wonderful, right? But you can't depend on the answers. The answers are not the main thing of Judaism. The main thing of Judaism is there are certain things that can't be answered. You have to ask. You have to find out which things can be answered, which things can't. And there's some things that can't be answered, right? But you can understand certain aspects. Sometimes according to Kabbalah, for instance, the ultimate question, it says, is the para aduma, the whole thing of the red cow, that it takes away impurity and all the laws of it. It says totally not understandable. But if you look in a lot of midrashim, and a lot of, they explain a lot of examples why the paraduma comes because of the egel. Even Rashi says because the Jewish people worship the golden calf, so the mother is that comes in. According to Kabbalah, there's even more things, right? That the water is the water is chesed, and that the burning of the thing is gavura. But as much as you can understand, you have to understand. But we have to understand that the essence of God is not understandable. Why does it make any difference to God that I put on tefillin, that I keep Shabbat? God is infinite. Essentially, all these things, the whole Torah is totally not understandable. But you have to ask as much as possible. But God is telling Moshe, now I'm going to reveal a name of myself that's going to be higher than any possible understanding. Therefore, your question, right, you have to now take the attitude of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You have to understand that there's certain things that cannot possibly be understood. Only when Mashiach will come, they'll open up the simple example is the Holocaust, right? The Holocaust, totally not understandable. There's no way any human being can possibly explain what happened in the Holocaust. You can't blame it on this person, on that person. It's just totally not understandable. The whole thing is just it's a big, a terrible, awesome question. But on the other hand, it's God that did it. God did the whole thing, right? So there's certain things that you just have to accept, like Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov did, and the question has to be in your mind. But you have to understand that now you're not going to get the answer. Therefore, now it's also proper what it says, Era, that I appeared, El Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That's how the Torah portion begins. Nitner, Milo, what it says, why it says Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Why doesn't it say Avram, Yitzchak, Yisrael? The Eibishter had command, God demanded from Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the highest level, as by him, that by him it should be the inclusion of nature of the emotions, the level of the emotions unquestionably following God, like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yaakov is the lowest aspect of Yisrael. In an ofen and away from Kabbalah, all from Yaakov, that he should have what's called the accepting of the yoke, like Yaakov had. What does it mean? Yaakov is Yud Akev, serving God like the heel of a foot, taking the Yud, the highest level of Yaakov, like a heel. A heel doesn't ask any questions. A heel has no intellect, there's no nothing. It just does what the person wants to. The same thing, Moshe, sometimes you have to be like this. As Zol Bayim, it should be by Moshe also, the joining of the higher worlds, Yud, and Akev, the lower worlds, the foot, and the Akev, which is the heel. That also in there should be Seichel v'Chachma, that also in intellect and understanding should be a possibility, an aspect of Kabbalah, all of accepting the yoke, which is by Yaakov. In other words, now I'm going to give you the Torah, God says, and there's going to be a lot of questions, and you're going to be able to understand infinitely more, right? And the more you understand, the more questions that you're going to have. And the Rebbe says, that's good, wonderful to have questions, but you have to not forget about the attitude of Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. There's certain things that you have to accept totally, even though you don't understand them. And even though they're against your understanding. As we will continue, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you. God bless you and have a good day. Oh, we're going to do the Yom Yom. 1 minute, 1 minute. We almost forgot. I almost forgot. What is today? 1 second. Thursday. Okay, today is Tuesday. Chavches, 29th of Tavis. There's a book which is a book of philosophy, which is written by the third Rebbe of Chabad. It's called Derech Emuna of the Tzemach Tzedek. It was printed, and there's missing a lot of footnotes. The Tzemach Tzedek, he wrote it when he. Why did he write such a book of philosophy? Because when he went to Peterburg, the Tzemach Tzedek was in the time of the Tsar, right? Up until the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, it was under Tsarist rule, right? Under Tsarist rule. So he was in the time of the Tsar. So he had to go to Peterburg and ask a lot of questions. And there he had to answer a lot of questions. There he had to answer a lot of questions in philosophy that were asked of him by the high ministers in the Russian government. These people were geniuses, and they asked hard questions, and they had to be given answers that they could understand. So the Tzemach Tzedek wrote a book of philosophy to explain Jewish religion according to logic, and that's this book called Derech Emuna. Have a good day. God bless you, and hope to see you at 3 o'clock.